Hey there, welcome back to Arms Trade Tycoon. Welcome to the tank business. Today, let's have a look at the M3 Lee. Well, whatever they call it these days, because they tend to have different names for the thing. They call it the M3E2 Lee. Fine. We got 7 new components if I buy it from the Americans. The other guys, I think the Societe also had it. They have 2 different variants. They have one that has 6 components and one that has 7. Interesting new components for me. I think they got the Continental engine. No. Whatever, we'll get the more expensive one. I have plenty of contracts, I have plenty of money. And that's definitely going to increase if I add the M3 Lee. Most of the contracts I can win with the M3... No, not with the M3. With the various tanks that I'm currently working on. However, I would like to have another option. So let's just fix that as well. Also, regarding fixing tanks, let's just fix all of these issues with some of the tanks that I have. And let's have a look. That's the T-34. Where is the M3? Here. Okay, buddy. We're gonna give you a facelift. Just not the type you might expect. I'm gonna create a new design. Let's have a look. This one has an attribute sum of 1097. What sort of role are we going to use this thing for? Are there any contracts that specifically require this tank? Because, is that the stopgap that they want? Yes, it's the stopgap. Okay, so let's select that as the particular role. The stopgap tank. The stopgap median tank is requested by 3 countries. Yeah, and everything else is obsolete. Nice. Okay, so stopgap medium. There's 2 different requirements. Or rather, 2... For some reason, the French apparently have a different list of requirements than these guys. But over here, I'm seeing the exact same thing. Whatever. We'll just take the one with the most nations interested. What exactly do they require? A tank that's not heavier than 30 tons. Fair enough. A tank that has a modicum of protection, I'd say. Frontal thickness is 48. We already have more than that. Kinetic resistance is something I need to work on. They need a pretty hefty turret of 100 millimeters. That is one tough turret. By now, I do have a decent amount of options. I think I can make something work for them. Accuracy is a high requirement of 77 and a 65 rounds a minute rate of fire. That is very impressive. That's more than 1 round a minute. How does that work humanly? Maybe it doesn't. Okay, so let's have a look. The M3 Lee. What sort of unspeakable things can we do to you? What do you have? You got a reflective vision port. It's a tier 3-1. I already have access to tier 3-3. And that is going to give me... Hold on, let me select this. Otherwise, I might not pick the right options here. So, what they need is that thickness, which I think is not exactly going to be influenced by any of this. What I am going to be seeing is that the weight isn't that important. Crew aiming is pretty important. Quickly acquire targets, and over here we got crew awareness. The crew awareness is better, the crew aiming is worse. And over here we have a slightly better degree of crew external comms. Internal comms is a heck of a lot worse with this vision slit, relative to the vision port. Curious. So why would I want this one? Because right now you're not really selling it to me. I don't really see the benefit here. It's a 10, 18, let's say 31. Over here I got 18, 24. It takes up the same amount of space. What? Why are you supposedly good? I think you're not. Let's just stick with this. Alright, additional ammo stowage is, I think, something that they do need. Because presently, some of these tanks require that I carry a lot more shells. Well, a few more shells. They're supposed to carry 27. I already carry 31. I think I can just install this. The only thing I gotta be careful with is that it might take up some additional volume. And if the tank turns out to be too full, I'm gonna either have to cut back on this or the engine. For now, let's give them additional ammo stowage. I'm just gonna give them 24. Oh, that's, hold on, for secondary weapons. Oh, never mind. That's machine gun storage. I do not want that. What else? We have the ventilated hatch. This is not really gonna be working with any of the role attributes that I currently require. Because it doesn't have to do with structure, nor repairability, nor operational range. So those things aren't terribly interesting. I get a tier 3-4 here though. And that does interest me. Takes up 3 times the space at less weight. But it seems that most properties are slightly better. So let's pick that one. We got the barn hatch. Or I can get the simple hatch. Regarding crew safety, slight improvement. Regarding top ricochet, slight improvement. That is not something they are really interested in. They want front ricochet. So that doesn't change. And over here the structure is slightly less reliable. Over here we have more crew comfort. I'll take the simple hatch. Next we have no alloys, and regarding the amount of or the type of casting, I could get some additional shock and kinetic resistance. That definitely improves. So over here we're going to 7, and over here we're going to a kinetic resistance of 9. That's the investment casing. So that's definitely moving the needle in the right direction. I'm not really sure how I'm going to get up to that 79 kinetic resistance. I'm not really sure. Maybe I can still put some additional on the turret, so they're going to be happier about that part. Now, let's make sure that they have more for the driver. Well, that we can free up the driver, I should say. And over here, this is going to be working for mostly transportability. Like, what sort of headlights do you want? That makes the tank less or more transportable. These carbide headlights, fairly transportable. Apparently, they can see a lot. With these things, they actually see less than if they had no headlights. I'm not sure. Anyway, they don't really seem to be doing a whole lot for crew awareness. So this is supposedly tier 4. Yeah, right. That moves the needle by a whole 1 point. Mobility goes up, crew performance goes down. I don't think it's going to be that worth it. Okay, what else? We have a couple of additional vision ports on the tank. Right now they're using open slits. These open slits give good crew comfort, good operational range, good structure, but not so good sides thickness. Thankfully, that's not really something they care about. They care about the frontal armor of the tank. If I go for these spaced flaps, we can get some better... No, we can get the same level of crew comfort. We can get better structure. We can get better side thickness. But we're sacrificing some operational range. And over here we're getting more. I don't really know why this part that's just 32 kilograms more messes with your operational range. Ventilation of the engine or something? I don't know. Anyway, additional shell stowage. Yes, I do want that. I want to up that spec, and over here we got no change. So, that's one. Moving on. What sort of engine am I going to fit? Well, that depends on what sort of things I throw on here. At present, we get access to the Universal E137. That looks remarkably like it should be there, so I might not pick that one. Because, well, why would I? I can go for something like this, which is completely out of place and seems to directly interfere with this vision port. I might look into a different turret, because this one... Oh, this one has the frontal thickness they require. Wow, you're that heavily armored? And you are that heavily capable of ricocheting things. Interesting. This kinetic resistance is a problem. I need to get some better craft or casting, I think. Can we crossbreed it with the German? I think that would be funny. Or with a T-30. Oh, that's going to be absolutely hilarious. Yes. No, we're going to throw on the German turret. Oh, that thing is enormous. It doesn't have nearly the frontal thickness that it needs. I guess it would allow me to install the accurate German gun. I don't think we're quite going to get up to the level of accuracy. There, it's only 30. Well, that's without crew. If you really want to give them a lot more oomph, you can also install... Oh, actually, hold on. That's the wrong gun. No. Really? What's better than one German gun? Multiple German guns. Is that going to do anything for my accuracy? I wonder. Okay, this is not going to be a serious tank. This is going to be the M3 Lee dual gun carriage. How are we going to move this heavy, heavy thing? Because we do need to have it at least thundering around. That'd be fun. Decent power to weight ratio like that. That is the AE key I6. If I give them a lot more punch, we're definitely going to move up in weight class as well. Because I can go to the Mark 1. Oh, hold on. No, no, no. This one. We can power up to 26 tons then. Can I install that big German thing? 31 tons. You're going to have a lot of power to weight ratio at present. But we're not done yet. We're not done yet. They're going to hate this front thickness though. Okay. If I give them the BMW? Nah. Not really. The Continental? The Continental has an even higher power to weight ratio. Well, actually, no, it does not, does it? It does not. There. That's the 31.5 tons it can drive. Okay, machine gun. MG34, because why not? I can give them German tracks. Oh, boy. What an absolute disaster of a tank. I love it. Okay. Driver. Commander. What sort of crew attributes do we need? Because the driver really doesn't need to do a whole lot. So you're going to also double as a gunner. Then we need a gunner mechanic? Yeah, something to that effect. And I think I can do another loader gunner. There. With that, we're probably not getting up to the rate of fire that they need. Nor the accuracy. Like, not by a long shot. If I throw in another loader, my reload does not improve. My ROF. Oh well. Can we at least make up for the damage? No, we cannot. The secondary weapon, however, is going to require some hefty shock pen. Let's provide that first. The phosphorus gives me 5. Over here I got 7 from the heavy steel core rounds. Let's do that. And now they're happy about that. They're quite happy about that, in fact. If I can give them another type of shell that also boosts shock, I think they'll be even happier. We got these as primary. Let's give them these as secondary, because they care about shock and range. This has a range of 3, this has a range of 3, it has a shock of 5, shock of 5. What's all-purpose incendiary? Yeah, it's same stats. It doesn't really matter for them that much. Okay, main power. Main gun. We're going to get access to the APCR, because if you really want to blow something to bits, you can. And then maybe some high explosive shells for the shock value. Then we're going to have stabilized fuel. Let's go with diesels. And the synthetic oil. Paint it. USA. Or German, because it's it's borrowing a lot of portions from the Germans. Okay. Protection. We are falling very far behind. They really are not going to like that. When it comes to firepower, they don't mind it that much, I think. So those stats, as well as the mass, I think might make this thing work. Let's save that and work on that in engineering. So assign that to the engineers. I'm going to go back to the design. I want to make something a little bit more reasonable. Because while this thing is amusing, I think it is not going to sell very well. Unfortunately, until such a time as when it's actually designed, I can't very well make a copy. So we'll just make another copy from the other design. I'm going to say I want to use that one, because I think that is a pretty good base. Another turret we can put on is the Universal E337. That's the one that we get from the tank itself. Maybe we can improve upon that design a little bit. I'm not sure if they already used the best specs. Can we make them happier? Well, we can add a radio. That would definitely free up the driver a little bit more. And over here, we're going to be seeing... And I need to select this thing again as the role. Where were you? Stopgap medium. You care about frontal thickness, which is what this thing has. You care about frontal ricochet, which is what this thing has. So the more kinetic resistance I can throw on this thing, the better. Boom. Kinetic resistance 119 is what they require. I have only 89. That is not very good, is it? We still don't have any better alloys? Come on. Yeah, it gets progressively worse from there. Okay, so I need to work on that. I need to get another alloy so I can start doing a little better. Changing the thickness could work. I guess it's just going to add 700 kilograms to the turret. So let's say this is the heavy armor variant of that particular turret. So that maybe we can get them to get such a high score for the turret armor that they'll overlook the other flaws. So that's going to be your turret. Wait, come again? Oh, you got another turret. You got another turret on top of the turret. Yes. I can probably improve upon that one as well. I can give him the German one? No. This is going to be the serious contender. So I'll actually give them the turret that came with it. The support E2. But I will make a copy so that I can improve it. Yes. Oh, I love messing with these tanks. Okay, we got not a whole lot of things we can change. The only thing we can really change is what sort of kinetic resistance we're going to get. Maybe we can still score some points here. So let's say I want to get the highest kinetic resistance. And yeah, it does move the needle slightly. So let's save that. And assign that. I got no engineers for the job. Okay, let's go bring in some more engineers then. Because I also saw that the designing was going to take forever. 35. Back to the design. That is going to definitely help with what they need for this particular contract. We're looking at... yeah, we're getting there with kinetic resistance. We're getting there. We're not quite there yet. I'm not sure how they get up to 119 with the turret that I have at present. Maybe if I change the alloy type. I just haven't exactly worked that out. I don't know how to do that yet. Engine. 25 tons. If I make this thing not too heavy, maybe I can make them a little happier with the maximum accepted weight. So, throwing on... what do we get? I can give him T34 tracks. Which, remarkably, doesn't even look that much out of place. Oh, they do change this part of the tank. That's why it doesn't look out of place. The thing is, those Leshy tracks are bloody heavy. And that means they're not as useful for the design that I have in mind. The Leprechaun, I think that is the stuff that the tank comes with. They're rated for 25,000 kilograms, or 25 tons, which this tank has already exceeded. Probably by virtue of having a really heavy engine. What do they actually use? Filter it by the Americans. They use the Continental. That one. Rated for 27.9. We get a tiny power to weight ratio bonus. Tiny one. It's going to be a heavy tank, and I don't really like that. Why is it so heavy? Oh, it's the tracks. The tracks are the ones that are making it fairly weighty here. So maybe I want to change those out. The thing with these tracks is they're very easy to run. You only need one crew member. And that is probably going to be a mechanic. The other ones either require 3 or 2 crew members. If I give them the German tracks, we got a maximum weight of 33.8. If I give them... I can give them the Centaur. Okay. I don't think they're going to quite carry it. So, let's not. I do like that crew requirement of 1. That is interesting. The T-34 ones don't work very well, so we're going to come back to the Germans, which have a pretty decent attribute sum, and they don't have the same hefty weight of the Leprechaun at 64, but you're paying for that in crew requirement. Okay, so what are we going to use to drive this thing then? If I want to make it relatively light, with the improved heavy armor turret. We might get to about 27, 28 by the time that we're done adding guns. I can give them a mix of firepower. I can give them... Hold on, what if I add a gun that has a fairly high rate of fire? So, I don't know, like a 2-pounder or a 3-pounder? Because that can fix the rate of fire problem. If I give them a 3-pounder, we're looking at a rate of fire of 21. If I give them this one, we're looking at a rate of fire of 18. Like, the bigger the gun gets, the worse your ROF becomes. Well, not with this thing. So, you don't mind loading a 25-pounder at that rate of fire? Color me impressed. Needs 5 crew requirement. It's going to be a busy tank. The accuracy might still be fixable by having a really good gun here. I kind of doubt it, though. The accuracy is fairly dreadful. Yeah, we're going to have overloaded gunners. Apparently this turret can only house the American gun. Unless you want to seal it up for some reason. But we're not going to do that. No. I'm going to say let's have a look at that gun. Maybe we can use some parts that we already unlocked to improve the gun. Because we do have this thing which increases accuracy. A simple muzzle brake. It's not going to be stellar, but every little bit of the stats help. We're at 51. And we came from not 51. Let's put it that way. What do we have here? We're using a widened cylinder for an accuracy of 13. This is going to have to get balanced out with rate of fire. I think the widened cylinder, the Ausführung ein from the Germans, might be a slightly better fix. A slightly better fit, I should say. ROF goes up. Over here, gun elevation goes up. So, let's push that closer to where we need to go. We got a very decent rate of fire now. The accuracy, however, is lagging, and I'm not really going to be able to fix that with these things. The ROF is good. Yeah, this makes up for ROF, but it doesn't make up for accuracy. Over here, we have the optics. I can push that to having the improved optics for an accuracy of 59. I got the stabilized optics for 12. So we're pushing it to 61. I think that's the best I can get. And then for the loader, this is going to cut into my rate of fire. And it's going to help with gun depression. I don't really care about gun depression on this main gun. I care about rate of fire a lot. And you can get that with the howitzer breech block. Rate of fire is now apparently 108 rounds a minute. I don't know how that works. I would like to see the muscles on the gunner that can do that. I can even push that higher. To 110. You could fire 110 rounds a minute. And you require, what, 15 crew members? What? That's it? How do you do that? I'm not going to ask questions that I don't want answers to. I don't know how they do that. But I'm extremely impressed by their capabilities. So yeah, the ROF is now 55. If I want to get something that has accuracy... Well, we're not going to find that with the American gun, so I think we might be looking to the Germans to fix that little thing. Unfortunately, we're not quite there. How did they get up to 77? If at all. This is the DT VAR from 1938. That's every... We can't fit a better gun than that. Which is disappointing. If I change that medium universal turret, the support thingy, to maybe the German one, I can at least fit a German machine gun. So I could fit this one. No. I don't have a component unlocked? Huh. If I can fit this one, I can probably fit a German machine gun, which has a far better stat, the MG34. I'll take that. This is going to be an interesting crew fit, though. Because we got decent amount. Okay, so, driver. Driver's going to be picking his nose if I don't give him a job. He's going to be commanding. You need a full-time commander. We need a loader which can double as a mechanic. And kind of that fixes the tank. ROF is 92 rounds a minute with one guy who functions as a loader and a mechanic on his off time. That is ridiculously impressive. If I also give them a gunner, the accuracy goes up. If I give them an extra gunner, there's no additional benefits. Okay. So we're looking still low on protection here, because the kinetic resistance is still low. We're looking decent on frontal thickness and front ricochet, but we're still looking low on kinetic resistance for the turret. So this one's too low, that one's too low. We're making up for it here a little bit, but not really enough. If I do switch back to that other turret, the ones that the Americans are going to use, or, well, we're planning on using, we're looking at... Yeah, you got no firepower soft, don't worry about it. This moves it a little bit, and then I guess I'm going to have to install that DT VAR. Let's at least make a better design out of it, because this is probably a little outdated. Yeah, that one's already getting worked on in engineering, or can be worked on. I'm going to save that design, yes. And let's see. We have a quick change barrel, which is a tier 2. And they can't fit tier 4? Oh, sorry, tier 3? I don't have tier 4 yet. I'm not even sure it's in the game yet. This one. What I would like you to get is soft firepower. That is the most important thing. They need to have a machine gun, and it needs to have a range of 17. Okay, then. So, a range. This one has decent range, the thickened barrel. Over here, we're looking at a composite barrel with a range of 18, so... That's a hefty, hefty barrel, I'll give you that. This is going to rate of fire. Yeah, this is all rate of fire, I think. Rate of fire isn't that interesting. They just care about the fact that A, it has a machine gun, and B, that it can shoot at range. Tier 2, 1. Good lord. Get a simplified belt-fed machine gun, or belt-fed magazine in there, and then for the stock, Tier 2, 3. Let's just push it as high as we can. Save, back. Okay. So, if I get this tank in, we're looking pretty decent on the amount of firepower. We're looking pretty decent on armor. And especially with some additional expendables, I can probably push this to where it needs to go. Because they want that shock pen on the machine gun. Still doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, but fine. I'll get you your shock. Over here we're going to get stabilized diesel fuel, and we're going to get synthetic oil. We're going to get you the APPC shells for the kinetics, and we're going to get you the HAHV shells for shock, even though they don't care about that. Paint it. Dunkelgrau. There. How does this thing stack up? This one has a higher value. Jesus Christ, 31,000 man-hours? That's gonna be a very, very slow production. Then again, this thing is the the weird one. Stat-wise, we're looking at, I think, a fairly decent outcome with the serious contender. Because I'm looking at 291, and over here we got 385. So that's the protection. Let's just fold all of these up. Make it easier to compare. Over here we're doing quite well. The firepower soft is enormous, but the same thing can be said here. Well, not quite. I wonder which one they'll like more. Alright, I'm going to build this one. And I'm very curious to see how well it's going to perform. Thanks to a breakthrough, the M3 Lee actually got researched very quickly. Now to see if they actually like it. Stopgap medium. Hold on, it's the French one. I was bidding on the American one. They like the weight. That's a plus. They really, really do not like the level of protection. Notably, that frontal thickness on the hull. That's a problem. The front ricochet on the hull is okay. What are they falling over? The kinetic resistance. Uh-oh, there it is. That's the problem. And that's a problem that I cannot exactly fix with the dual gun carriage either. The firepower hard is good. The firepower soft is very good. But these two do not make up for the fact that this protection is not sufficient. I wonder if the additional alloys are going to make up for that. Right now I'm not really researching any alloys, I think. I'm researching engine, turret, and heat. So I almost have the heat shells completed. And over here we're going to get welding. Is this alloy? It's steel. This is kinetic resistance 35. This is the assembly, so that's different. I might need to go for the dual steel. That's going to, however, set me back because I also need to get semi-casted riveted assembly, the improved assembly, or sorry, the improved medium support hull for the medium Valentine. I definitely need to get that one, if only to mess it up. Alternatively, if I go here, 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 I can get hybrid steel. Kinetic resistance of 50. So we're getting there, but that's going to probably take, unless I get breakthroughs, probably a year and a half. Ain't nobody got time for that. Alternatively, this is like what, 120, 180 to 190? Actually almost 200. And this would be worse. But this hybrid steel would then just make the dual steel superfluous, while also eventually giving us the heavy Cromwell. So maybe it's more interesting to go the route of going for hybrid steel. Until such a time, I don't think I can make the M3 Lee work for me, contract-wise. Because it is simply not a tank that is good enough for the contracts. They really, really want that kinetic resistance, and at the moment, I don't think I can get there. I can change the frontal thickness of the tank, but I cannot change the resistance. Okay, fine. Let's go for the seam welded assembly. 199 days. Yeah, that's definitely going to take a long time. And I can't exactly focus my efforts on this thing specifically either. Because I'm going to be locked behind this and then that and then that. So I can't exactly speed that up either. Unfortunate, because I really wanted to see if I could sell the M3 Lee. Because the contract does not accept anything else. Over here we got the Germans. The German howitzer is even worse. The T-34s are actually the least bad. But if I want to get a decent amount of money for them, yeah. Like, it's a $5 million contract if you can get away with it, which I cannot presently. So, ideally, upgrade the armor on this thing. Look at... that's overcompensated or something. Actually, it's the firepower? Wait a second. It's the accuracy and the ROF. Oh, maybe I can change that. Maybe I can make a V4 of the T-34. Anyway, that's not really what I want to focus on now. In a couple days, we're going to be seeing the completion of the dual gun carriage. And I want to test drive that. There she is. The M3 Lee dual gun carriage. I guess they always had dual guns. I mean, it's not anything particularly weird. It's just that the way that I have set it up, with this weird German dual gun, and the Churchill turret, I had to replace that one because I couldn't fit it within the limits. That's going to make this thing a lot more interesting, shall we say. So, let's see how this thing performs. It might be a little underperforming firepower-wise. Geez, that turret is really snappy. To the point where it kind of over-rotates. My tank pulls to the... I was going to say pulls to the right, but then it pulls to the left. It doesn't really know where it's going. Hello, turret? So this is the M3 Lee with German guns. German mains and German secondary. Why? Because we can. And this is where you can add the whole spiel about didn't stop to question whether we should. This thing is thankfully side-mounted, coaxially into the turret, so that should be a little bit more easy to use relative to a solid hull-mounted turret. Gun depression's rather good on this turret. I can probably make this work. Don't try and shoot down into a trench. Unless the whole thing is angled, you probably wouldn't be getting away with that. Also, I think we're using the German tracks on this thing. So it's like Germany took a sledgehammer to this thing and decided to make it work. Boom. It is shifty. For a platform this heavy, it is mobile. The agility's good. Is it a feasible tank? No. I really don't think so. But it's amusing how many different parts you can fuse together and still call it feasible. Well, something to that effect. What I don't like about this testing ground, though, is that this German tank here can get penned by a machine gun. You don't even need to shoot it with a main gun. You can just pen it with a machine gun. It's always been the case. I hope it gets changed, because I think it kind of takes away from the whole thing. The whole experience. Can you please move? There. So, that is kind of the conclusion of the episode regarding the M3 Lee. We will probably see it again once I have some better alloys for the tank. Because until such a time, that kinetic resistance that they seek, I guess it's going to remain some sort of American mystery. I don't have the techniques for it yet. Thank you for watching. I hope you had a good laugh or a bit of a cringe out of what I did to the tank. And I shall see you soon for the next video.